Thank you and good morning. It's a pleasure and honor to be speaking here at the World Knowledge Forum. The slides are slightly old, especially on the right side. Currently, India's GDP is around $4.2 trillion. Per capita income is $3,000, $3,100. Market capitalization of NSE listed companies is around $5 trillion. Outstanding bank credit is around $2 trillion. Market cap to GDP ratio is around 120%. And number of listed companies around 2,800. If you see the market capitalization to GDP ratio in India and South Korea is almost the same, 120%. And the bank credit as a percentage of GDP in India is around 50% or slightly less. Compared to that, China has almost 4 times, that's 400%. So India is a highly deleveraged country, and it's a banking system which is very robust. In a way, India is poised to become the 3rd largest economy. This year it became the 4th largest economy, surpassing Japan. And Germany is still, I think, $600 billion away, but in 2 years' time, India would be doing that. Last quarter, that's the Q2 of 25, India grew at 7.8%, which is the fastest growing large economy in the world. And the inflation is cooling off, not only in India, but across the world. Last quarter, India's inflation was around 1%. The fundamentals are very strong. It took us 63 years after independence in 1947 to reach $1 trillion. And then we have been increasing that extra $1 trillion in a shorter period each time. And as you can see that graph below, the highest GDP growth being estimated for 25 for India is by ADB, which is 6.7%. But the first 2 quarters, we have grown at 7.5%. So we are actually scoring 1% more, or almost 16% more than what the highest agency is saying. So effectively, India is growing much faster than everyone thought. And what it is doing is basically people's incomes are rising. It's still a very low per capita income country. It's $3,100. Compared to that, South Korea has $34,000, so it's almost 11 times more per capita income in South Korea. But then we have 30 times more people compared to South Korea. So we have 1.4 billion people. South Korea is around 50 million people, so almost 29 times more Indians are there compared to South Korea. And the interest rate cycles are basically turning down because of the low inflation. Consumption is very high in Indian economy vis-a-vis other economies, because it's in a way the per capita income is low, but the consumption is high. And the indirect tax, which is called goods and services tax, it's completely automated way to collect taxes across 1.4 billion people. And it was set up in 2017. And now we are reducing the slabs from 4 slabs to now largely 2 slabs, 5 and 18%. And for the seen goods, it's 40%, but hardly 0.1% goods are in that region. The biggest issue for the world is the demographics. If you look at the world, it's slowing down in terms of the age. World is aging. India is the only large country which is also technologically oriented, which is going to grow in population. By 2100, that is in next around 70 years, China will be half the size of India. Today, China and India have similar population. By 2100, China will be half the size of India in population. Korea will also reduce almost half today morning, we were told. And so Japan is old. China has suddenly become old. India is young. Europe is old. America will remain old if Indians don't go. So effectively, who can produce new things? Who can produce things is young people. If you look at China's growth from 1989 to 2015, That's the time they were getting newer people into the job market. 2016 onwards, their population coming into the job market started reducing. Now it's 10 years. Each year, they are losing several tens of millions of people from the job market every year. India is going to keep on adding more and more people to the job market over the next 30, 40 years. India's average age is around 29, 30 today. And the birth rates are also reasonably high. And the female participation is low, but it's going to increase now. So that's where most of the dividends in terms of the economic growth will come from more people, young people coming into the job market. In some ways, the government has been also trying to do things which is more automation. India is literally the most automated country in the world in terms of how it deals with itself. It has the GST on the left side. It also has the ability to collect direct taxes automatically and also, of course, payments and things like that. The social reforms are another part. India is still a poor per capita income country. We have a social security that has been put into place. India does provide free food, grains to 800 million people out of 1.44 billion people, which is almost half the population or slightly more. 800 million is a number which, if you add up the entire population of Europe, US, Canada, Mexico, little few countries in Latin America, it will still be larger. So we basically have become people who are able to feed ourselves, and we don't export too much in terms of food grains, but we did export around $44 billion of food grain last year. On the map, if you see, India looks very small because it is at the equator, and the way the maps are prepared, the ones which are outside on the top or bottom, they look large. The ones in the middle look very small. That's why India looks small, but it has the largest amount of fertile land in the world. And NSE was India's first public digital infrastructure. It was the first automated thing in 1994 when it started, which allowed all Indians from across the country to trade on screen using satellite telecommunications. And today, it is the largest stock exchange in many ways in the world. On a good day, we get 20 billion orders in 6 hours, which is almost 50% of all orders in the world. Add up all exchanges, New York, NASDAQ, Chicago, London, Korea, wherever, we are 50% of all orders in the world many times. We do, on a good day in 6 hours, 300 million trades, which is another 50% of all trades in the world on most days. So there is nothing even similar. Why? Is because we have too many people. India, I mean, the NSE has now, we are a unique ID market. Most markets other than India and China do not know who is trading on them. It's the brokers who know, but not the exchanges. In India, we know who is trading on us. I have 230 million accounts, which is almost 5.5 times South Korea's population. And the unique investors are around 120 million, which is 2.5 times South Korea's population. So if I were a country as an exchange, I would be, I think, 11th largest country in the world. And 99.85% of India's zip codes or PIN codes are covered by NSE investors. We are up in the north, in Himalayas, at 7,000 meters on top. And we are near Indonesia, in Andaman Nicobar, where India's islands are there. And so we have investors across the length and breadth of India. We have 17,000 servers, which allow brokers to trade. They're sitting next to our terminals. We have 30 petabytes of data. We do provide response time in nanoseconds. Some of you who are technologically oriented. 1 second has 1,000 milliseconds, 1 million microseconds, and 10 raised to 9 nanoseconds. So now in some of our markets, we provide response time in nanoseconds. That is 1 by 10 raised to 9. And we have 2,000 racks for the stockbrokers and HFT players to put their orders next to us. 1 in 4 households now in India trade through NSE. And in last 11 years, the market capitalization has grown up 7.5 times. the number of investors has gone up 7.5 times. And the age of people who invest in Indian stock market has been coming down. Today, almost 69% people who invest in stock markets are now less than 40 years. Almost 31% people are more than 40 years. And 25% are women. So a lot of women participation in stock markets. In terms of the market capitalization and direct and indirect holdings, almost $1 trillion is now owned by individuals directly or through the mutual funds route. And that is almost similar to what's happening in South Korea. And 50% of India's stock markets are owned by what we call promoters. And the remaining are owned almost 20% by mutual funds along with the retail investors, and then a little bit by government and banks and insurance companies. And the foreigners own around 16 to 17% of Indian markets. The last 5 years alone, the Indian population, Indian retail investors have made $710 billion out of the investments they have made over these years. NSE has raised not only equities. Last year, it was the largest equity raising exchange in the world with $19.5 billion, 260 IPOs, out of which 60 main board IPOs, 210 small board IPOs. We have 2,800 plus entities listed, but last year alone we raised $221 billion in form of equities, bonds, hybrids, REITs, InvITs, and many other instruments. In the last 30 years since NSE started, India has a long history of stock markets. The first stock exchange was set up in 1875. And then Japanese Stock Exchange, Tokyo, was set up in 1876. So this is the oldest exchange framework in the world, in Asia. But NSE was set up 30 years back, and since then, India's market capitalization has grown 125 times in Indian rupee terms. And we have a dedicated platform for small companies. And we firmly believe that over 30 years, last 30 years, we have ensured that India grows in raising capital and creating jobs using NSE. And next 50 years, when India is going to grow, become one of the largest economies in the world, it will grow on the back of NSE. NSE is also the frontline regulator, unlike most exchanges in the world. We regulate the companies and we regulate the stockbrokers. We don't regulate the investors, but we do have the powers of state. So we are a private sector entity, but we are also a state in a limited sense that we have powers to create regulations, to fine them, to punish, to make them behave, the brokers and the companies. In terms of technology, as I said, we have 220,000 terminals, 17,000 plus servers, 1 billion mobile phones trading on us, 2,000 plus full rack equivalence servers, and 20 billion peak order messages. If you look at how India has performed on the top, the Nifty 50 is our flagship index. Over 20 years, CAGR basis, it's given 12.3% returns in Indian rupee terms. And if you see the S&P 500, which is somewhere in the middle, it has given 8.7% returns on 20-year CAGR. But if you look at dollar terms, the Nifty and S&P 500 have given the same returns. Look at it other way around. The China, in 20 years' time, has given close to zero returns. In 30 years, they've given close to zero returns. In India, why it happens is that we provide tremendous protection for outside investors. Normally, there is a fight between insiders and outsiders. Insiders have more power, more information. And the countries which take care of the outsiders will have more investors' confidence, and that's where India is getting more and more investors coming from across the world to invest in Indian markets, but also a lot of Indians have started investing $20, $10 a month, and that's where 118 million people investing $10, $20, $30 a month is making into a large market, and it's going to remain because, like South Korea, India also saves almost 30% of its GDP. I think South Korea's numbers are 33%, India's number are 32%. And so almost $1 trillion of savings every year are coming into the markets now. Earlier, Indians used to invest in real estate, in gold, in fixed deposits. Today, many of the youngsters are now investing through mobile onto the stock markets. And we have presence in South Korea. You can see on the right side of the table, there are 9 passive funds on Nifty indexes. We have different types of indexes, leverage indexes, strategic, thematic indices, almost close to $1 billion from South Korea is now invested into Indian stock markets by way of ETFs. NSE's international exchange at Gift City provides you ability to trade directly in a dollar-based economy. It's a special economic zone competing with Singapore, Hong Kong, and Dubai, where Indians are not trading much, but the foreigners are allowed to trade in dollar terms, so you don't have to convert your currency into Indian rupees. And individual investors or the institutional investors are able to trade. It also collects all the orders coming into Singapore market, SGX, on Indian products onto that market. It does trade $100 billion a month in that market. We have more than $50 billion of bonds listed. We are going to list newer Indian and foreign companies going forward. Effectively, Indian markets is pretty much one of the most highly regulated, most organized, highly automated market. And there is a theory in economics that countries with low per capita income cannot have good capital markets. At $3,100, there is no similar market to India. At $6,000 also, there is no similar market. At $12,000, there is no similar market. At $14,000, there is no similar market compared to India, except China, where if the prices go down, government has to go and buy. In India, government doesn't buy, it only taxes us. So effectively, this is the market which has come from within, of the people, by the people, for the people. And how India is going to matter is because of 4 reasons going forward. One is the demographics. As I told you, India is around 28, 29 average age. It's going to remain young. And the young people are going to come into the job markets. They're going to produce more. The second part is technology. The technology is the only thing that changes the world. And technology comes in waves. And waves are now becoming faster. So what used to happen in terms of the wealth creation earlier was slow. In future, the wealth creation is going to happen even faster. Last 30 years have been very fast compared to last 300 years. And last 300 years have been very fast compared to last 30,000 years. So my hypothesis is that using newer technologies on AI, biotech, healthcare, robotics, 3D printing, and many other newer areas, the world is going to create more wealth in the next 50 years than that was created in the last 10,000 years. And who will learn those newer technologies is the young people. Which country has young people who are technology-oriented? That is India. And that's where 17% of world population in India, with 20% of world's young population, is going to create 25 to 30% of new wealth of the world over the next 50 years. And that is why the demographics and technology. The third part is demand. The old people don't require much. Because in a way, at my age, I don't require the new phone because it's going to be complex. So I don't buy a new iPhone, probably iPhone whatever, 7, 8 has been working for me well. But the young people want new phones, new clothes, new things, and that's where India has demand. So India doesn't have only demographics and technology, but it also has demand. And it's going to remain there. So most of the companies of South Korea, like LG, Samsung, Hyundai, all of them are among the largest players in Indian markets, but they are coming to India not only for its workforce, not only for its technological workforce, but also for the consumption growth that is going to be there going forward. And the last part is infrastructure. India was not good earlier in infrastructure. Now it's it's creating the infrastructure at breakneck speed. We are building roads, bullet trains, ports, airports, electricity, solar. Last week, one single company, Reliance, announced 575 gigawatts of solar framework to be built in next 10 years, and so on and so forth. So India is building itself at a breakneck speed. And in terms of the technology orientation, now out of 1.45 billion people, more than more phones are there compared to the number of people. And they're getting 2 GBs download per day at less than $1.50 a month. And so all of us are watching movies, and when we are not watching movies, we are transacting. Last month, we did 20 billion transactions on mobile, which was 50% of all the transactions on mobile in the world, and so on and so forth. Effectively, we are the technology center of the world, and many times people say that you're not good at AI because China and America are in the race. But I always ask that we did not even develop the computer chips. We did not develop the computer languages or operating systems, but we are the largest users, or we are helping world use the computers in the best way. And we are now the services capital of the world. The largest companies in the world in AI, like Google, Microsoft, everyone are doing their AI work out of India. But a Goldman Sachs is doing all their business back office, including derivatives pricing, out of their 100,000 people sitting in Bangalore. Or Fidelity, which has no business in India, has another 100,000 people sitting in Hyderabad, Bangalore. And Microsoft has probably 20, 30,000. IBM has more people in India than they have in US. And that is true with Deloitte, with 100,000 people. And so India has now 3,000 companies across the world who have set up their biggest and brightest research centers in India, providing jobs to Indians, but they are on the cutting edge of what you call biotech, healthcare, 3D printing, AI. Anything you see, what you use, largely there is India inside. And when I speak in US, I say that most of your services come from us, sitting in India. We don't have to be there in US. And sitting in India, we'll provide you more services except cutting your hair. But sometimes, in near future, we'll also cut your hair using AI. Thank you very much. If we don't look at why it's happening now, we won't be able to understand what is going to happen in the future. And we need to understand the past for that. So if you go back to the Second World War, it was a small little war between Europeans and won by Americans. Effectively, America created the new world order in 1945 using Bretton Woods system, where the World Bank and IMF are created, and then the central banks of the world, each country would create, and then the gold will be backing the US dollars. That's how the US dollar became the reserve currency of the world. And they, of course, created United Nations and WHO, and everything started with WTO, and what have you. And it was a rich country, allowing other countries to use their money, use their military power, especially their friends, to go and attack others, but also create what they call rule-based framework, which was basically rules made by them, but ultimately it was still a very stable framework. And then there were two, what we call bipolar situation. One is USSR, other was American system. The capitalist versus communist broadly. And then in 1988, the Berlin Wall fell, and then US became the single polarity. So last 35 years, they've been single polarity, and they have also created huge imbalances within because they are giving a lot of social security, other things where their balance sheets have now become unsustainable as a government. Put together, now, after 80 years, of ruling the world, suddenly US is feeling poor. And till the time they were feeling rich, they were allowing other people to make regulations. They were pretending that they are following the regulations. But whenever they didn't feel like, they will attack Iraq and everyone will have to follow. They will attack somebody else and everyone will have to follow. And today they are feeling poor and they are now receding from the world. They are asking the world that if I give you X, even their staunchest allies, their friends, EU, European Union, or South Korea, or Japan, they're asking if I give you access to my market, what will you give me back? It's a shock to the world, saying it was your solemn duty to help us, and suddenly you are now asking us back. And so that is a shock. We all need to come out of that. But the country which was going out and fighting wars at a moment's notice by sending troops, spending trillions of dollars, is now not sending troops. It's not going to send troops to nobody. It's feeling poor, and it's receding. For me, all the things starting with EU, United Nations, whatever is going to now, all the multilateral arrangements are going to go down. IMF, World Bank, WTO. It's now going to be bilateral, and it's going to be transactional. If it is not Mr. Trump, it would have been somebody else, because the America's fiscal has now become unsustainable. $35 trillion of debt, every year adding 2-3 more trillions of debt, and continue to roll it over is going to be very difficult for any country, and that is true with Europe too. And those countries are becoming old. When you are young, you are producing so you can keep on borrowing. When you are old, it's not easy to borrow, because how will you repay? How will you produce more? And that is what is going to happen going forward. And that's where Mr. Trump may have a personality which is different, it's very abrupt. But anyone else in US, for me, leaders come out of their circumstances, of their society. And that's how this leader has come about, from the circumstances of his society, where middle America has lost jobs for 40 years. They don't know what job to do. They want to bring back jobs, but they don't know what jobs to do. And they can't even do the jobs at the price which is possible in other countries, right? And so it's going to be a lot of adjustment for the world for the time being, but the old world order is over. The volatility in our relationships are going to be very high. And naturally, India was neither part of the communist regimes nor part of the capitalist regimes. India was on its own. And India will remain steadfast on its path to be friends with everyone, trying to be friends with everyone, and whatever can happen. At the same time, the 50% tariff, that is 25% plus 25%, if you look at the headlines, they look 50. But if you look below, like in Korea, it's 15%. But if you look below the headlines, the still part is at 50% or something. So Korea's exports, most of them would also be charged at a higher rate. And India's electronics, now India makes the largest number of iPhones and Samsung phones and many other things, which will be at zero tariff in US also. And similarly, many other areas where India is exporting to US are not covered in that 50% tariffs. What is covered is textiles, where India was not exporting too much. It was Bangladesh or China, which was exporting a lot. Marine goods, which are fish and other things, which will be taxed. And few other things, gem and jewelry. But the diamonds are now made at home. Earlier, diamonds were made in mines, but now we can actually produce at home. And so effectively, out of total goods exports, which are not very high of India, India is basically a service exports, and services are not on the table. What is being discussed is only the goods. And why services are not being discussed is because US is surplus in services. The Google and Facebook and Twitter and every other type of service, US doesn't want you to charge them, nor they will charge you. If they charge you, then of course you will start charging back. And then last week you might have seen the EU fined $3.8 billion to Google, and there was a quick reaction saying you can't do that. And so services is where India is good at. Services is what India exports to US in a large way, and that's not on the table. That doesn't mean it may not come on table tomorrow. But broadly, currently the way it is looking out, the headlines if you see, India is tariff very high. In the details, most of our fast-growing activities like electronic exports and other goods like oil exports and other things are not being taxed at all. And so there are some issues which people don't understand, but broadly, of course, India has been a friend to US for last several years, almost 3 decades, and hopefully we'll be able to resolve this in an amicable way. Last week you would have seen Mr. Trump making noises about his friendship with India's Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, and hopefully over the next 2, 3, 4 months we will be able to resolve. But broadly speaking, India has 3,000 global capacity centers from the best companies in US, in Europe, in Asia, sitting in India. They don't export anything. They export the brains. And there is no tax there. And what you can stop or tariff is goods, not your brain waves and your ideas. And what India is good at is giving you those, right? And so overall, India is going to grow much faster. It has grown even in last quarter with all the uncertainties at 7.8%. Before that, when Mr. Trump took over also, it grew at 7.5%. So effectively, India is going very fast on the back of technology, its demographics, demand, infrastructure, and it will continue to grow fast. And of course, it will have friends like Korea with it, but it's now mending ways, making more deeper relationship with other countries who are also working with India. There are fundamentals about money and assets. Assets are one which produces something else. And money is a store of value. If you look at it that way, there have been instances in the world's history where people have issued their own money. The banks have issued their own money. In 1850s, in US, most banks used to issue their own currency notes, which were bearer notes. And what is called stable coin today were those that behind something, they were issuing those notes. And they started issuing 10 times more, 20 times more. And when finally they broke, the new Fed was created, saying that only the sovereign will issue the currency and not individuals, because individuals actually can issue more currency than actually is with them. So stable coin, finally, the end of that is that when you try to actually go with the USD or won, that guy will not be there because it is decentralized. That person will also be decentralized. He will be also virtual. You will not be able to go after him. He would have gone into Canada or Latin America and staying with your billions. So be very careful. In terms of issuing own currency like Bitcoin and all, what does the blockchain do vis-a-vis centralized framework is it allows you to evade taxes. It's what I call drug dealers' money, right? And so in a way, it reduces the government's ability to collect taxes because you don't know what kind of profits you have made, because you can do transactions, some in Bitcoin or other things, some in real, and actually make losses on the balance sheets, but make profits in Bitcoin. And a lot of people from even traditional companies will do that to siphon off money and all. So it's going to be another tumultuous time. But you look at it the other way around, that in some ways, the reserve currency of the world, US dollars, is now worthless, right? $35 trillion of debt. And so it's going to go down in some ways. And so that elites of that society are now promoting new currencies which are being issued by themselves. It's like individuals, you and me, are now the central banks and creating our own currencies and calling them liberty or freedom and whatever. It's freedom for the person who is issuing. In stocks, what is a stock, right? It's also a token. It's a token to represent the profits in that company shares later on, right? What is a share, right? It's a token. And it happened over 400 years. The first stock exchange was set up in Amsterdam in 1607. Today, After 400 years, as a society, entire world, we have kind of honed that centralized framework. Similarly, the centralized money framework. But to change it is also, in a way, the elites of America are passing on to the newer assets which they are issuing themselves and hollowing out their own currency. I don't know finally what will be the end game. But as exchanges, we take it as business, we'll continue to trade them. I don't trade because my government doesn't allow me. In Korea, they allow you, so you might be able to trade. But eventually, this is basically everyone issuing their own currency, calling them whatever, and calling that decentralized finance. But effectively, when you go to collect, suppose you create tokens out of, say, real estate, and then everyone starts trading, all of that happens, and later on, when you want to buy, actually visit that square foot which you have bought, or a flat you have bought, there is no flat there. It happened in global financial crisis. The securitization on top of securitization, it's a new wave, which is a faster wave, which will put everyone under bankruptcy very fast. So be very careful till the time this cycle lasts, and you think you are smart, you will get down before the treadmill stops. Hopefully you will, but be very, very careful.